What is up, guy? Boy, I'm right in your face there, aren't I? How's everybody doing today? Hope your day is going great. We are, as you can tell, there's no Krista right here. I am doing a pre-recorded interview today. We have a great guest, Ernie Davieau. I know you guys have heard me talk about his Bigfoot encounter over the years. It's been quite a while since I had him on. So we're welcoming him back here in just a few minutes. So this is, like I said, this is a pre-record. So welcome to everybody. This I will probably be in chat when this is airing on YouTube. So I appreciate everybody tuning in to watch. A few things before we bring Ernie out. I'm getting closer and closer to 1,000 subscribers, so make sure that you share this out with everybody. And the deal is still on that once I do get to 1,000 subscribers, you see that little logo right up here in the corner. That will be tattooed on my arm, and I've talked to an artist, and they are good to go to do that live. So that'll be kind of cool to see good old Paranormal Paul get Paranormal Among Us and a ghost tattooed on my arm forever. So kind of something that I want to always remember. This is what introduced me to so many great people, including Ernie down there, and way out of my comfort zone, and never my wildest dreams that I think that I would get this far with this. So I'm enjoying it, and we're gonna keep plugging along. Also wanted to remind you that we have a conference coming up. Wrong one. That's the out. So I'm going to put this logo up because we keep adding guests and speakers and everything. So I'm just going to put up this generic one. Crossing Realms Conference. Make sure that you get your tickets now, September 19th and 20th. We got everything covered. We got UFOs. We got paranormal. We got cryptids, all kinds of things covered with all of our speakers. It's going to be September 19th and 20th, like I said, at the Eagleton Civic Center. That's right next door to the Ray County Museum. We're going to do an overnight ghost hunt after the conference, which is all sold out, by the way. The ghost hunt is. So just a rundown of what to expect to get tickets. We're going to be doing on the 19th, we're going to be doing the meet and greet from 5 to 10 p.m. All of the guest speakers, all of the special guests, all of the hosts will all be there to meet. Then the conference is going to be on the 20th. That's going to be running from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. We're going to have all kinds of vendors there. We're going to have all kinds of speakers there. The list just goes on and on. Then from 6 to 7, Marilyn Bass is going to be doing a gallery reading. I'm not sure where that's going to take place, but we're going to be doing a gallery reading. So make sure you get tickets to that as well. And then from 8 p.m. to 2 a.m. is the Celebrity Ghost Hunt with all of the speakers and everything. And everybody from the Texas Front Porch group will be there as well. Blondes and Booze will be there ghost hunting. I'll be there. Donny Cho, BMR, Tex, Monica, Danielle, Jason McLean will all be there. So it is going to be a fun time. So make sure that you get your tickets soon for Crossing Realms Conference in Richmond, Missouri on September 19th and 20th. Go to Eventbrite under Blondes and Booze to get your tickets today before they run out. Okay, got that. If you look back on some of the shows from the first year that I was doing the show, I can't remember what month or what episode number it was. It was a while back. We had Ernie Davieau on, and he talked about his Bigfoot encounter. Man, I'm telling you, that was one of the best encounters that I've ever heard. He's find him on all kinds of other podcasts. So let's welcome to the stage Ernie Davieau. How you doing, sir?
Pretty good. How are you doing today, Paul?
Doing great, doing great. Good to see you again, my friend.
Yeah, same here.
On the when we're recording this right now, it's February 12th. We are getting it just started sleeting here. So and you're in Cincinnati, right?
Cincinnati area, yeah,
There you
we're
go.
getting some sleet and snow and stuff
Yeah,
like that
you will
too.
be getting what we have here.
I
So
don't
we'll,
want it. Keep it there. Don't threaten me.
I'll tell you what, we'll keep the snow. I don't want the ice. I don't wish anybody to have the ice. So, hopefully it
No,
warms up and stuff. So
it's supposed
um,
to.
yeah, it's a mess out there. So
Yeah.
so if you're watching this anytime, just be safe when you're out on the roads and everything. So Ernie, again, thanks for coming back. It's been, like we said, it's been quite a while since you were on, so it's great having you back here.
Thank you.
We talked quite a bit. Um, for those who might not remember your story, and kind of give us a little bit of background when that encounter was and where it was.
Yeah, the encounter happened in the mid to late 80s, and that was in the state of Massachusetts in what's referred to as the Cobble Mountain area, Cobble Mountain Reservoir area on Drake Mountain. I used to hunt a lot of different places in a lot of different states, and that one was close to home, so that's where I picked that particular day. I was able to go out there and do a lot of hiking and uh, tracking out there, so I knew it better than any other place, really. I knew that where the deer were going to be and all that, food sources.
And at the time, and you were a skilled hunter as well, correct?
Yeah, I never looked at myself as a skilled hunter, but yeah, I grew up with that. I was since I was I think 7 or 8 years old. I was
Mhm.
out there hunting with my dad and learning how to use a bow and learning how to use a gun. And by the time I was 10 years old, I was hunting with a borrowed shotgun, not my own shotgun per se. I mean, I'm by myself, but it was a
Yeah.
borrowed shotgun, and I was with the hunting party. So I've been hunting for a long time, learning a lot of things about the woods with my father and his uncle, my great uncle.
hmm And we both we don't work at the same meat market, but we both work in the meat market industry, if you will. And so I deal with a lot of me personally. I've never been hunting before. I deal with a lot of deer hunters and such, and it takes a lot of patience and skill really to do what you guys do.
Yeah, when you're out there, once you find out where they are and everything, and then you know, you have choices to make. You can either track them,
hmm
or you can try to set up your own ambush point. And if your ambush point fails, then you can resort to tracking them. Whereas tracking them, you've got to really pay attention. It's going to bring you a lot deeper into the woods, maybe places that you've never even been before. And it's a whole new level of chess with them because now they're aware of you even
hmm
while you're trying to track them. So you've got to try
hmm
to figure out what you're going to do, and that's pretty much what happened to me that day. I wound up having to kind of follow them. I didn't have to track them, but I had to follow them,
hmm
try to set up an ambush point on them.
And before this encounter, were you a Bigfoot believer, knower? Think it all was hoo hockey?
Definitely, definitely not. I thought that anybody that was that believed in. Oh, let me clarify that. I had seen, I guess you call it the Patterson Gremlin film.
hmm
Uh, Back basically when I was a kid when it first came out. I don't know if it appeared in National Geographic on the cover or what it was, but I was really intrigued by that. I looked at it and I said, man, I said, that's every hunter's dream if you're brought up hunting and everything, that you're going to get the biggest deer or whatever the case may be. And I said, that would be cool to see something like that. And then I just washed it off and figured it was just an anomaly. There was just one of them, and it's probably gone by now because I was much older, back in the mid to late 80s. So around that time in my life, is I just thought that anybody that was going to believe in uh, Bigfoot, never mind any cryptid whatsoever, you definitely need to go back to your doctor and tell them that your meds are incorrect, that there's something wrong. Okay. Only
Yeah.
to find out later in life that you have a lot of things that ever since this has happened, you have a lot of things psychologically that come into play in this. A lot of people are completely unaware of, and even if they are a little bit aware of some of it, they think they have complete control over it, and you don't unless you've been trained to have control over it.
And that film was back in the late 60s, 67 to be exact, I
Okay.
guess. And that a lot of, say, different chemicals were out and about in those times. So I can understand if somebody is new to that, and seeing it for the first time, like, whoa, man, that's awesome. But it certainly did make a lot of believers out of that film as well, and certainly a lot of skeptics too. But okay, so you're going out to it was Drake Mountain back in the 80s, and you were by yourself too, correct?
Yeah, yeah. If I wasn't gonna be hunting with my brother, or I couldn't get one other individual to go with me, I really enjoyed hunting by myself. I enjoyed it, but I didn't relish the thought of actually getting a harvest, because the deeper that you go in, you're going to have to get that harvest out of there,
Mm-hmm.
and you might be surprised at what maybe just a mere 100 pounds is going to be like after you've walked, 4, 5, 6 miles with it.
Mm-hmm.
That's, you're going to be pretty tired. So you got to be ready for that and everything else that comes with it,
Mm-hmm.
partially processing the deer while you're out there to get it to cool down, which you
Yeah,
understand.
what we call field dressing. Yeah.
Yeah, field dressing.
And the odd thing is we still get one or two each year that come in with the full deer on field dressed or whatever you call it, and we're like, okay, this you got to take care of this. We can't do this for you and stuff.
Yeah.
But that's a whole different thing and they come back with rotten deer and stuff, and like, we're not taking it anyway.
Yeah.
I digress. So let's get into your encounter a little bit. I'll let you just go ahead and tell the story. It's an incredible one, I think.
Well, we'll jump in anytime you want. As Paul and I were saying, I did my homework on any area that I was going to go into. In this particular area, I had gotten topographical maps. You used to be able to go down to the local bookstore and get a topographical map of any area that you wanted to go into.
Mm-hmm.
And off of that topographical map, I used to go in and I used to mark down the deer runs that were in there, the trails that were in there, the food sources in conjunction with the trails, any markers, rubs, scrapes that the deer were doing along those trails. Then, food sources like beech nuts or whatever, water sources also marked down. So the only thing I had to really take care of outside of track and seeing what trails are being used mostly and where they were going
Mm-hmm.
was entering that area, taking into consideration the way the wind was blowing, which I did that morning.
Mm-hmm.
As I approached my area in my car, there's a farm, an old farm there, and an apple orchard. And they were on the left-hand side, on the opposite side of Drake Mountain. And the wind happened to be blowing away from them towards the Granville Reservoir, Cobble Mountain Reservoir. So I proceeded to drive all the way down to the other end and enter from that end. I had known that the deer were bedding down, or a group of deer were bedding down between these really large boulders. I used to think of them as being like Stonehenge. They were so big.
Mm-hmm.
The Massachusetts Hilltown Hikers Association has a little site that you can get on and look at that and see some of those boulders there. But I knew they were in between those boulders, so I had parked my car across the main road and went up a fire road adjacent to the Granville Reservoir, and then hooked a left. And there was an old trail that went up there. A lot of people call them fire trails. If there's forest fires, so they can get in there and start putting out the forest fire. And some people call them the old tractor roads from the farmers and stuff like that, because there's stone walls all over in there too, and old foundations. Later on, I learned that this actual path was part of what they call Unkemit's path, named after an Indian who used to bring up one of the tax collectors from the colonial town in Connecticut all the way up through the hill town so they could so that he could collect his taxes. So I got up onto that trail, and I was probably 3/4 of the way up Drake Mountain and where the boulders are, and I was closing in on that site where I thought they were bedded down, and sure enough, I heard the deer jump up, and I was a little bit disappointed there, but I thought I was sneaking up quiet enough. It was crispy out. I call it crispy. It's like you could see your breath. There's a little bit of frost on the ground. There was leaves. There's a lot of shale rock, sandstone, things like that on this path. So you have to be careful. But what it did is it hooked back up over the top of the mountain, and that's the direction that those deer got up and ran towards. So my thought process was that I was going to try to outmaneuver them and ambush them to get out in front of them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I proceeded to do. I was when they walked, I would walk, and rather than walk like a regular human being walks, I was doing what I was taught to do is two-step. I tried to be as quiet as possible, but in case they heard me, I would sound like a four-legged animal. So I did.
Interesting.
I would hear them alongside of me going along that ridge. I couldn't see them because they were just on the other side of that ridge, and there was something hindsight is on the other side of them. I just figured it was a bigger deer moving with them, and I managed to get out in front of them. And the path where I got out in front of them, it goes straight down towards that farm. I don't know, maybe a mile or so, 2 miles, and right at the top there, where this happened, it hooks over, it dog legs back down the other side of Drake Mountain, and there's a brook that comes right out of the top of the mountain right there, where you can get water. So that's where I had managed to get to. As I actually got to that point, it's kind of open, so I looked around and made sure there wasn't anything that was going to spot me, because there was no place really for me to hide right there, and there wasn't anything. I didn't see a blessed thing. I'm looking for a squirrel, a grouse, anything that's going to alert the deer to not come through there and run in the other direction. And I set up looking at the stone wall, like half crouched down, half standing, crouched down. I had a 12 gauge shotgun on me, loaded with slugs. I didn't believe in buckshot. I'm not there to wound something or, to make Swiss cheese out of the trees there.
Right.
And I could hear those deer coming right at me. Now I'm getting a little bit excited. I know they got to come over this stone wall, so that's when I picked up movement on my left-hand side out of my peripheral at about the 9 o'clock position, maybe a hair less than 9 o'clock. I picked up movement. So
real quick,
Yeah.
I got a quick question for you.
Yeah.
As you're approaching the stone wall and everything, and the deer, did you hear? You said you didn't hear any squirrels or see any squirrels or anything. Were there any other sounds or smells that you remembered?
That's a pretty good question, because I remember a gentleman by the name of Chief Ernest asking me similar questions. I was able to sit down with him years later, but no, I didn't hear any other sounds. And maybe because my focus, I was extremely focused on getting my harvest that day. But just for seeing, no, I didn't see it. There wasn't anything. I didn't see any birds flying. I didn't see anything on the ground moving around. That I would have been cognizant of. That I would have known.
Yeah.
But no, I didn't.
Okay. And little did you know things were about to change.
Yeah, little did I know.
Yeah.
Okay, and some people say you're blessed, and I'm blessed in one way, but cursed in another way, and you'll people hearing this for the first time will find out. I could hear the deer coming, and that's when I picked up movement on my left-hand side of my peripheral vision there. So I turned towards that right there to find out what the heck is that, and it looked like it could have been like a deer laying down near a tree. So I drew up on it, but I'm not going to shoot it right there. I'm going to wait for it to get up because that's the way I was taught when I was a kid. You just don't shoot a deer laying down. And I've had people over the years make comments like, you know, they're not going to know. Well, I was told that they would know. So I'm a kid and I'm going to believe that. And I'm going to treat it like that with respect. I'm not shooting a sleeping deer. So I'm watching it and I'm still trying to remain cognizant of everything going on the other side of the stone wall because I can hear them. There was beech nuts on the other side of the stone wall, and it sounded like they started browsing, you know. And this thing started. What I thought was a deer started moving up towards that tree a little bit more. It seemed bulkier. So now I'm thinking, you know, this is a bear. So again, I had swung my shotgun from right to left and then left to right again. You know, now I'm swinging it back towards it because I'm thinking this thing's bulky. If this thing is a bear, and it was about 35 yards away, I said, if this thing is a bear, I could be in trouble here. It could have cubs here, maybe in one of these big old pine trees or something, because there were some big pine trees there, and they're big old what they call old wood, old forest pine trees. Not a lot of them, you know. Like I said, it was kind of open there, you know, and that's what I'm thinking anyway. So I got my shotgun pointed right at it, but I'm still kind of kitty corner watching it, listening to what's going on the other side of the stone wall. Because if I pick up movement over there, I know it's a deer coming over the stone wall, and I've got my harvest anyways, you know. And that's when it scrunched up to that tree a little bit more. And now I'm looking at it and I'm saying to myself, well, it's not a bear. This is looks like a man, you know, scrunched up to that tree. And now I'm thinking, geez, you know, maybe somebody else was in here, is, you know, obviously is in here. And they were probably they got in earlier than me, and they were just laying there taking a little nap, and they heard the deer coming, but they got their head around the other side of that tree, so they can't see me. So my objective at that point was thinking that I needed to move up a little bit and try not to make myself um, stick out like a sore thumb, moving up a little bit, you know, because I was a little bit scrouched down too, and that way there, if the deer came over the stone wall and they went between us, this is shotgun season up there. And I don't know, he might not be thinking the same as me. He might be loaded with buckshot. You know, some guys, they do that when they know they got to go through heavy mountain laurel, or they carry as backup if they've got to go in after something wounded. So I wanted to be in his peripheral in case the deer came between us. So if he looked over in my direction, that he was going to spot me and not pull that trigger. It wouldn't have been a good day for me, nor, you know, could I go out and buy new hunting gear because there's holes in my hunting gear, you know. I just
Yeah.
can't go on, you know.
Yeah.
And that's about when he's just about fully erect over there against that tree. And now I'm looking at it and I'm saying to myself, this is the biggest man I ever seen in my life. This is huge. This is huge. I've seen some big men, real big men. I used to fight. I grew up with a guy that was 6'9". My uncle was, my father's brother was 6'11 and a half. You know,
Wow.
close to 500 pounds. And I used to fight. I used to fight in the open division. Never mind heavyweight. I fought in the open division, so I was very familiar with people. You know. And I'm looking at that tree and I'm looking for a piece of moss on it, a twig, something. Give me something to put in my memory bank so that if everything bodes well for me,
Yeah.
I can go over to that tree and I can measure off in that tree, you know, because I knew that this day would probably come. I was hoping, you know, if it did ever come, that I would be prepared for it. And I found a piece of moss on the tree and I'm like, oh, great, good, perfect. And that's when all hell broke loose on the other side of that stone wall. It was, I can't even to this day describe to people other than the fact is if one of the sounds I heard was like clanking boulders, rocks, just clanking together. It sounded like something came out of the trees on these deer. It sounded like if you took a baseball bat and you beat the side of a kickback, a 250-pound kickback, that thud that it makes. Okay, that's what it sounded like was going on over there. And you know, I'm still trying to figure this out and go in between trying to, what's going on over there. And that's when it basically stuck its head around my side of the tree. And it's looking straight across over that stone wall. And it caught me in his peripheral. It looked over at me, looked back over at stone wall, and then snapped his head back at me like, wow, like where the hell did you come from? Like he was taken aback at the fact I was standing there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you look at that, just that alone, it would have been easy, if it would have just ran off, alerted his buddies, ran over there, do whatever it was going to do, and taken off. I could just tell you all I had an encounter at 35 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Um, an artist that did all the drawings that you'll see on my account right there. They're the only ones that we actually do on the t-shirts. They are not AI. They are
Mm-hmm.
high definition by Sibylla Irwin. It took her months, 2 to 3 days a week, to draw these and put me on her show.
Wow.
So it didn't just run off. Like I said, that would have been easy for me to say that to people.
Yeah.
What made it difficult for me was the fact is now it's seen me and it's going to fully come around my side of the tree. So it already had its right arm basically on the tree, like peering out, looking over that stone wall and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and caught me in the peripheral with its right leg out a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It fully stepped around that tree. It swung its left leg around. So now this fourth person being, whatever you people want to choose to call it, is now facing me. Now, when Sibylla actually did this account with me, she did advanced Google Earth on it.
Mm-hmm.
And she dropped a pin on where I said I was standing. She dropped a pin on where I said that it was near that tree. And I believe she came up with 38 yards. Good.
Wow.
But I'm still going to stick with 35 yards because that's what I originally said.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that
So,
38, 35
yeah.
yards. I mean,
But I used to bow hunt too. So when you're in the woods a lot, you get to know distance,
yeah.
hopefully, because that's going to be like pareidolia for you. It's going to be, your mind is going to play some wicked tricks on you.
Mm-hmm.
So
So
go ahead.
when this creature kind of comes out from the trees and is just standing there staring at you and you back at that thing, what besides, oh shit, what's going on? What's going through your mind? Are you even thinking of running? Are you thinking of just kind of standing still, seeing what happens? What's going through your thought process at that time?
Yeah, my thought process is once it came full tilt to me, broadside, looking directly at me, is I instantly knew there wasn't confusing it with anything. I had already thought it was a deer. I'd already tried to put it in that bag. I already thought it was a bear. Tried to put it in that bag. I already thought it was a guy and put it in that peg. Now my mind was pretty much, yeah, take a look at this. This thing here is a Sasquatch. And what gave me that impression is because it didn't fit any description of anything out there other than like Neanderthal, the cross between Neanderthal, Native American,
Mm-hmm.
African American, and absolutely humongous.
Mm-hmm.
This thing was enormous. So I had my shotgun pointed right at his chest. I didn't know what was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I'm ready to let some ammo fly. That shotgun I had was a semi-automatic. I could have let a lot of slugs fly, and at that range, I can guarantee you that I would not miss, particularly because it was that big. But what was also in my mind was I was already cognizant of what was going on the other side of that stone wall.
Mm-hmm.
So I was wondering about that. But what it did next actually calmed me down. It put both of its hands out in front of it, elbows in towards the waist, the hands halfway between the waist and I'd say the chest, palms facing me, fingers together, straight up in the air like that, just like that, about that far apart, less
Mm-hmm.
than just underneath the pectoral muscles, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
And that there alone made me, I wasn't as fearful. I was more like, what the, what the heck is going on here? I've never heard of anything or read anything that they do this, or, you know, I was getting really intrigued about this on how far this was really going to go. And I knew at that point that it would be senseless for me to run. Absolutely senseless, because this thing was fit. I mean,
Yeah.
fit. And you'll find out because there's a lot more to the story.
And even back then, not witnessing them before. I mean, you know that they can cover 10 yards in a step or two. So they would be on, if you would have ran, I mean, they would have been on top of you like that. And good. Did you experience any kind of mind speak or anything like that? Because it seemed like they were just saying it's okay with his
Yeah,
hand
that,
gesture.
that's interesting. But I mean, I can jump to that conclusion and hypothesize that what I was experiencing was perhaps that, but
Mhm.
it's also the way that it would, when it made a hand gesture, it would look at me, because it was studying me, and it would cock its head and look at me like that. That'd be the same thing that a teacher does to you, to
Mhm.
their children, or you, as a parent, you might do to your child to see if that light bulb goes on. So, is that mind speak? We do that with animals too,
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
is that we are just picking up off of those gestures and those facial expressions? That's what I think that is.
Right.
But it goes a little bit further than that. Could I have experienced that? Could be. I'm not going to rule it out, but it seemed to me like it kept trying to see if I actually was understanding what was going on, and that it was checking me out and wanted to understand me.
Right.
So it was pretty much even Steven going on there. I felt comfortable. I didn't feel threatened in any
Mhm.
way. And a lot of people say, geez, I would have. No, I don't think that you would have. Later on in years, I started thinking, after watching David Paulides and stuff, I said, no, that is bothersome, because it knew how to approach me.
Mhm.
And I'm pretty sure it'd be like a predator, a human predator
Right.
approaching somebody that you planned on abducting or something.
Right.
Like, hey, hold on a second here.
Mhm.
So I started lowering my shotgun, and I was wondering how far this was going to go. But during this whole spot right there was that knockdown drag out. They definitely were one or two or three or however many was
Mhm.
over there. They were taking deer. They
Mhm.
were taking a deer or several deer, because there wasn't anything that came running out of there. That's for sure. I'm pretty much mainly focused on him now, which
Right.
makes a lot of sense. So he's taken another step towards me. He's giving me that look like, do you understand? And I'm starting to think in my head that I'm getting a thought in my head that I'm going to have to parlay some of this back to him, because I don't want to appear to be an idiot to him. I don't maybe the teacher's gonna get mad at me, you know.
Show you who's
And
boss.
yeah, and plus I'm thinking to myself, is this real?
Mhm.
So I'm looking at my gun. I look down at my gun, on my stock, 'cause I got it down half ready now. I can see this compass on my stock. I see my wristwatch. I don't know exactly what time it was, but my memory serves me today. There was like 10, 11 minutes after the hour. I remember a plane going overhead. I remember checking my breath, breathing out, and seeing
Mhm.
that my breath was coming actually towards me, just maybe drifting off to my right a little bit.
Mhm.
I was just checking to see if I'm still I'm still around, or whether I'm having a wicked lucid dream going on here,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And it took more steps towards me, and as it took those steps and it was looking at me, it stuck its right hand out, fist closed, pointer finger out, and pointed directly towards my chest. And then it pointed towards its own chest. And again, it's checking me out. And I'm
Wow.
taking it all in. Like I said in the beginning, it would have been a piece of cake. Like, I'd be able to go down to the local bar and say, hey, I saw a Bigfoot or a fourth person or a being, whatever. you want to call it Sasquatch out there at 35 yards, and people probably down at the local bar would have probably bought me a round of drinks to calm me down.
Yeah, no kidding.
But he had to do that with the pointing, and then he continued walking towards me. In the past, when I first started telling this story, when I tell you how close it is, I was really kind of afraid to tell people, maybe afraid of my own self, to actually tell you how close he was. And I used to tell people that he was like 5 yards away. But if you listen to an old encounter that I've spoken on, you'll hear me say 5 yards away. And he held his hand out between us, and I had to look down. He didn't have arms that long, trust me. Everything about him was body proportionate. Okay.
Wow.
And I'll tell you exactly how close he was in a minute here or so. He continued walking towards me, and he made another hand gesture, two actually, palms down, palms up, same position, elbows in, as the very first hand gesture. I took it to mean he had no food. If they were looking for food, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I took it, the pointer fingers and everything as being that we were the same. I've heard interpretations, Native American interpretations. I've looked it all up. I studied me first. I didn't just start jumping in and start saying, "Oh, who are they? What do they do? This and that." I want to know why me. Why did this happen to me? I was looking for somebody else that this has happened to. There wasn't anybody out there. I was actually praying that maybe somebody else would come forward so I could lock elbows with them and say, "No, everybody's wrong. These things are intelligent. This is what they look like." But he did those hand gestures and continued walking towards me. And remember, it started about 35 yards, 35, 38 yards. Excuse me.
Okay.
And as he got closer, he pointed to my left, pointed to my right, over my shoulders, like kind of asking me, where did I come from? That hand signal, I just want to go back to that hand signal with the pointing there. I took it to mean that we're equal, that we're brothers. It's also known as being referred to as masters of the wood. Okay, so no matter which one I pick, they pretty much all mean the same thing, that he was recognizing me as probably being like him, that I was able to get into the position that I was in on him. And that's what he was taken aback by. At this range, after he pointed to my left over my shoulder and to my right over my shoulder, I could definitely see. I was sucking in every bit of information on this thing. Blue eyes. I could see the hair. What I thought was like a hairy face because of the skin tone, the color of the skin, and the hair, not fur, the hair on it. It looked like it was black and hairy. When it got closer, I could definitely make out not only how well it blended in the hair, but where men have hair on their faces. That's exactly where he had hair. His hair wasn't black. It was extremely dark brown. And you can see people with extremely dark brown hair that looks black. Its skin, I would say, was, to me, because I had the light hitting it, and the light was hitting in the hair too. So I was able to make that out. That's pretty close. And the skin was more like, if you ever seen anybody, it was really dark brown, like maybe Jamaican brown or so. It looks like I'm almost black, and it's not. I don't believe it's black, because you can see that it's maybe flip-floppy or something, but it looks brown to me.
Right.
That's what his skin looked like. He had that little brow ridge going on, and he looked like a Neanderthal, and he had blue eyes. His hands looked identical to ours. Forearms. I seen the forearm because he had to turn his palm up at this next stage. He was close enough to me that he stuck his hand between the two of us, his right hand, and he wanted me to look at his hand. He pointed to his palm. So I was able to see the forearm, the back of the hand where the hair is on the backs of your hands right here.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with him. Fingernails pretty darn clean.
Wow.
And I've heard that from other eyewitnesses. They say, well, they stink. Well, maybe they were going playing in the swamp with the skunk cabbage or something.
Yeah.
But maybe because they were hunting, they all went down, took a little swim in the
Mm-hmm.
reservoir to wash off any stink. Because it was definitely set
Exactly.
up on a pinch point. It was definitely on a pinch point.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that came over that stone wall, it was going to chase them down like a wolf, like wolves do. But he stuck that hand out in between the two of us, wanted me to point it at his palm, wanted me to look at his palm now because he turned his hand over. I seen the back of his hand. He turned it over, so look at his palm. And it was at that point I just started getting a little heebie-jeebies a little bit, and I started dropping my right hand. I'm trying to maintain focus, being a fighter, an ex-fighter on the shoulders and stuff, and see if there's going to be any sudden movement. Like that would have helped me out. But I'm dropping my hand down to my sidearm, and just as my palm is hitting the grip on my sidearm, is he picked it up. He was watching my body movement the same way. He picked it
Wow.
up, and he didn't like it. He was adamant. He tapped his palm, like, no, you look at my palm. So that's what I did.
Wow.
I obliged, because my thought was if there was a sudden movement, my only hope was to pull that handgun, put it directly up underneath his chin, and let one round go off. I don't know how I was going to get out of there, because I knew there was more than just him. I knew there was.
Yeah.
And so I looked back at his palm, and now I am studying his palm. I am close. He must have raised his palm just a little bit to me. I mean, I'm looking at his palm.
Uh-huh.
And he had the exact same markings that we have on his palm that we have on our palms, except there was what I later on looked back on to try to figure out any discrepancies was no lifeline. But then again, people are born with no lifelines, I guess. So it
Right, I guess. Yeah.
don't mean anything.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that I could think of. And some people say, well, maybe he's asking you for your gun. They don't need a gun. They don't. They can go pick up a boulder or tear a tree. A tree limb,
Uprooted tree. Yeah.
uproot a tree and beat something with it, But at that point, I was standing pretty much right next to it, and he kept looking at me like that, And he actually, it seemed okay after that. Like I calmed down. Maybe there's something telepathic going on there that he calmed me down.
Mm-hmm.
But I was below his shoulder, just a little bit above his bicep, but below his shoulder. That the hair on his arms and body was between, it varied like ours does, between like a couple of inches to like 5-6 inches.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
He looked over the. I repeat some of the hand gestures back, particularly the one on pointing, and I think that was a bad move because I pointed over his left, over his right. I think maybe that one might have said, you can leave or you can get out of here. Or, where did you come from?
Mm-hmm.
And he looked over that stone wall and he let out 3 whoops, a second and a half in between each whoop. And
Really?
I know that I know I've heard so many people, like they whoop and stuff like that, but they don't know if it is them whooping or if it's somebody else. And that has been the case many times. I have taken reports from 2 different groups camped out that they didn't realize they were whooping toward each other. I took reports from both campsites.
Mm-hmm.
So he did that 3 times, and he looked back at me and nodded his head towards me. And,
So kind of communicating with his buddies, I guess.
Okay. Yeah. Now I'm 100% sure that, he's not communicating with squirrels or raccoons or possums over there. He's communicating with his own kind over there, and he's taller than me. He can see over there. And he looks back over there and he whistles. Now, up until I think it came out about 7 years ago talking about this, and people never believed they got in trees and never ate meat. They didn't whistle. Yeah, well, you know what? if you had heard this story 40 years ago, you wouldn't be hearing it again today, because I probably would have just been locked up, or
Yeah.
probably just gone insane, taking my own life or whatever, just stayed off the circuit,
Yeah.
but here you are, and I'm here for a reason. You'll find that out in a little while here. But he did a whistle, like a come here, you know, and he took his right arm and he signaled whatever's on the other side of the stone wall to go back, pointed towards the area he had just come from. And he looked back at me one last time and bowed his head towards me. And then he went back in the same direction where he originally came from, towards that tree
Hmm.
with me. He didn't run, he didn't speed walk, he just gracefully, smoothly walked out past that tree, maybe to about 55 yards. And again,
Hmm.
uh, Sibylla actually dropped a pin on that. I think she came up with, like, I said about 55 yards. I think maybe she came up with 58 or 62 yards out there. And then he turned kind of kitty corner facing me, but still kind of looking out towards that area where the saplings were, and all them trees over there, them saplings. Man, it sounded like a freight train coming through there. You could hear the thunder on the ground. You could just hear something
Really?
tearing through there. And I picked up movement, and it came over the stone wall, not on my side,
Hmm.
on the Drake Brook side, over the stone wall, over that old path, over that brook. And it probably had to run like 100 yards. And let me tell you something. I've shot deer on the run. This thing would have been extremely hard to hit. This thing was like elbows and heels, extremely fast. When people say they can outrun, you can't outrun them. It let you outrun it. It forced you out of the woods for its own reasons, like it had babies around, or maybe it's mating season, or maybe didn't want you around its harvest that it just got or whatever, but they didn't want you around there. And you should respect that, you know.
Yeah.
But it went all the way out to that other one. And now there it's on his right hand side. And this one here was cinnamon colored, a little bit above its shoulder, but still shorter than the one that I met that came over to me. And the big one, I could just call him the big one, the real big one there.
Hmm.
Um, they're kind of both kitty cornered facing towards me. And he starts having a chit chat with this one there. That's where I heard the samurai chatter stuff going on, and you can almost pick up some of the words. I thought, now it's a little bit of it's coming out. I won't give that away, but a little bit of it's coming out.
Hmm.
The Ron Moorhead tapes, listen to them; they're real. I just wanted to call Ron Moorhead and say, Ron, dude, that's them. I seen them do that. That's them. But that
Hmm.
big one was having that little conversation, and the other one was having a conversation back, and the big one just pointed at me, and that little one kind of bent his head down a little bit to look underneath this branch that came out from a sapling, looked back at the big one, and snapped his head back at me too. Like he couldn't believe I was there. So I'm just assuming that the big one ratted me out and
Yeah.
was telling the little one, hey, look at what got by you. That got by you. How did he get there? You know, um, there was
It,
that. Go ahead.
you always hear how great hunters they are and how they can just sneak up on
Mm.
us, and we wouldn't even know that they're there. So I'm wondering too if it could be they're so focused on, like you said, they're so focused on whatever they were hunting over there, that they just couldn't believe someone managed to break their circle or whatever and get into their territory without them even knowing it.
Yeah, yeah. I've heard uh, people have asked me, wondering that themselves before, and the only explanation I can have for them is the fact that um, they really couldn't see me being on the other side of that ridge, and they couldn't smell me because the wind was blowing towards me
Mhm.
all the way up that mountain. And then when I started coming around the side of it like that, the wind was still basically blowing in my face, blowing off to my right from where I had my ambush point set up.
Mhm.
um, Plus I was two-stepping. I was really
Yeah.
thinking of becoming a deer, being a deer. That, I mean, you have to take that frame of mind into it, and what you're doing there. You gotta become what it is you're going after. True hunters will know
Mhm.
that when they're sneaking up, trying to be sneaky,
Mhm.
you know. But this one, after they did that, they had their little chew out, I'll call it. I think he was chewing the other one out. Like, where did this guy come from? You know, he did the double take on me. And the big one, yeah, like ratted
I
me out.
I can just picture their conversation. Dude, you were in charge of our security here.
Yeah, yeah.
You weren't supposed to let. You're fired.
How did this old fat guy get by you? You know, just take a look. There he is. You know,
Yeah.
but he gave a signal to the little one. He took his right pointer finger, fist closed, pointed at him, and told him basically to do a semicircle around me, like flank maneuver around to my right.
Mhm.
And then he pointed to his own chest, and he did the same thing. And I don't know if that was for my entertainment purposes. I don't think there was I can't figure out the need for him to actually do that. You
Yeah.
know, maybe he was being polite to me to let me know this is what they were going to do, because I did have the thought in my head that I'm going to track them. I'm going to follow them. I want to know, where do they go? Where do they
Mhm.
sleep? You know, do they
Mhm.
in caves, or what is it? You know?
Mhm.
So that put the old snafu on it right there. And one went left, one went right on me. And I started kind of getting a little bit of the heebie jeebies there, you know, not understanding everything that was going on, because that's an awful lot to suck in.
Yeah.
But I knew I had to get over to that tree and find the
Mhm.
mark on that tree. And I found the moss. I walked up to the tree. I measured myself on the tree, put my hand on top of my head right there, took a little bit of a step back. And then from there, I measured up. And you're a meat cutter, so you know, I'm going to 1 inch it all the way up. I
Mhm.
1 inched it all the way up, hoping that it wasn't going to be out of my reach there. But it came up with I came up with 7 foot 8 inches on there.
Wow.
And yeah, and you say, wow, but you know, I didn't know. I thought these things were really, 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 really huge or something, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm saying to myself, gosh, I said, I literally said this to myself. I said, nobody's going to believe this. This can't be right. I must have the runt of the woods. This thing is way too small, you know.
Right.
And when right before I first came out with this, like 7 years ago, everybody's going, they're 15 feet or 20 feet tall. Well, you know what? I bet you there are bigger ones when you go up towards Canada. Nobody's going to argue that at all. You know, I mean, animals down in Florida are smaller than the animals are up here. They have different kinds, but the deer are smaller down there. You know,
Mhm.
it's all conducive to the area that they're in. You know, you get some really deep snow, you're going to get some animals that can move through
Mhm.
deep snow. Look at wolves; they got longer legs. You know,
Yeah.
moose, things like that. They're made for doing that. So same thing here, but it seems like these are made for just about any terrain whatsoever, and they have been seen at
Right.
different heights down there. And there we have we should take into consideration: are they juveniles? Are they adults? Are they matronly, like the Patty film, the Gremlin film? There, what they
Mhm.
filmed Patty. I believe that she's matronly. I believe that
Mhm.
she's an older female.
Yeah.
Okay, because this thing was cut up. This thing was. I figured him easily north of 500 pounds. I've had some people like Michael Anthony say, oh, they had to be, and he's seen a lot of wrestlers and everything too. He's had to be about 600 pounds. Could have been, you know. But let's
Mhm.
face it, folks. If you've never seen anybody 7 feet tall at the 500-pound mark, that's huge. Okay,
Yeah.
Shaq is only 7'2", I believe.
Yeah.
So
Only.
add another 6 inches to that, you
Yeah.
know, and then add some poundage on that, and
Dang.
then look at how it was cut up. This
Mhm.
thing probably could have easily, from what I've seen in its running ability and everything. I mean, the other one running, it would have been comparative. It could have easily taken Shaq and just twisted him into a pretzel, just picked him and thrown him into
Yeah.
a tree. Me, I wasn't anything. I would have been a spear. He could have
Mhm.
just picked me up with one hand and just taken care of me with
Yeah.
one single move, you know. But that was pretty much the end of it. I mean, I tried to measure the stride also,
Mhm.
because it went back through that right by that tree where it originally was. So I measured off on the tree, And I like I said, I was getting antsy at that point, and it was like a little bit of a knoll there. So I think what it was is it came up on its belly to get up to that tree. It was being clandestine because it had to get to its ambush point.
Hmm.
I could see where there was like some old foliage squashed down a little bit. I couldn't see any real good tracks.
Right.
So I tried to take a big long stride into it, missed it miserably. Then I tried to take a little jump into it, missed it again. I took
Wow.
a couple steps back and did a little run to start, and I fell short again. So I'm not wasting any more time. I knew that
Yeah.
the original measurement on the tree would have been very accurate. Now we hear a lot of them. People are saying, well, they're the one I seen was 7'8". That's good. I take a lot of reports. I want to
Yeah.
hear how you come. I want to hear exactly how you came up with that. I want to hear how you came up
Right.
with the yardage. I want you to impress me and tell me you've been hunting a long time out there, because
Hmm.
nobody's just going to walk out in the woods, take a rock in your backyard. There's a book called The Way of the Wizard, and that's one of the things in the book that she's
Hmm.
trying to teach this individual something. She is the wizard, and she says, take this rock and throw it at the tree. And he keeps failing miserably, miserably, until she finally says, I never told you you couldn't walk over the tree and throw a rock at the tree. Trying to throw it, you don't know how far away that tree is. So if you
Right.
practice that in your backyard and you put a
Hmm.
target up at 20 yards, now go to a set of woods that you've never really been in before. Have somebody else measure off 20 yards, which you don't know, or further,
Hmm.
and put a target up there and make the target bigger than what you've
Hmm.
been practicing on, and try to hit that target. I'll bet you fail.
Hmm.
You fail at least your first 3 or 4 rocks
Right.
at it. So that's just an example of what's going on.
So, did you ever find out what was on the other side of the rocks that was making all the commotion over there?
I felt that they definitely got uh, their harvest, their deer over there.
Hmm.
I felt that it was none of my business. Uh, they were probably going to try to keep an eye on me, to see how I was going to react.
Hmm.
I never went over there. I it's just something that you might do with another hunter or something. You might wait a couple of minutes and then give him time to start processing, you know, um, field dressing the animal, and then go over there and offer your help. But in this situation, I didn't feel that I should be going over there
Right.
at all.
So, chances are, they were probably doing the exact same thing that you were, tracking a deer, hunting a deer, and the big one was probably protecting you from the little one getting yourself ambushed on. That, I mean, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I think that's a really good thought. I think that it was complete coincidence that they arrived on the first location at the same time I arrived on it,
Hmm.
just about. And them deer got up
Hmm.
and decided they were going to try to go straight out across that ridge. They
Hmm.
could have gone anywhere, you know. And I think that there was one or two or more off to the right of them that arrived at that location at the same time, almost at the same time as me. I must have arrived there before them, so they never seen me coming up that ridge line, or seen me, or smelt me, or heard me, you
Right.
know. So I think it was just mere coincidence, right
Hmm.
place, right time, or wrong time, but
Well, I
um,
mean, luckily you're here, so I guess it was
mm,
the right time. So, I mean, you mentioned you hadn't spoken about this for after this happened for a great deal of time. I think you said 40 years. Um,
pretty close.
did you try? Did
Yes.
you just think that people would ridicule you
Yeah.
and think that you're nuts?
Yeah. No, I did try. I had made I can't mention the gentleman's name, but
Mhm.
I had made a phone call to somebody that was a professor at the time, and he pretty much um, he made me feel like I was completely crazy with the words that he used, and he didn't mince his words at all.
Really?
I was humiliated. I was really it affected my life
Hmm.
very, very badly. And then I also went to my dad, and we had seen tracks in the snow before. but nobody's ever told me. The hunting party never told me. We were told to leave the area that we were hunting in. To give you an example, by my
Right.
dad and my great uncle and stuff, we weren't allowed to hunt there. And this is after finding barefoot tracks in the snow.
Mhm.
So when I went to my dad and I told him my experience, what had happened, he just looked at me across the table and he said he knew. And that was upsetting to me in a way. I didn't let him know that, but that was upsetting to me that you knew about this. Why didn't you tell me? Well, I think it goes back to the fact is you don't want to tell kids too much, because then it's going to get either twisted around a little bit or it's going to get blabbed all over the place,
Right.
and I think that these beings, these forest people, are very, I don't think I know now, they're very heavily attracted towards honesty, spiritual people,
Mhm.
and trust in people that they can trust. And if you break that trust, that's it. It's over with.
Right.
They've always traded with Native Americans
Mhm.
for a long, long, long time. Even
Yeah.
before the Native Americans, they were trading and stuff. They're highly intelligent, and that's what I'm pushing today, because I
Mhm.
don't think we need that DB, that body. It's not going to prove anything to anybody out there. You can think whatever you want to think.
Right.
It's going to prove to you exactly what I said it was. It has fingers,
Mhm.
it has hands, feet, a
Mhm.
nose. This is what they basically look like. Are there different
Mhm.
different type looks? Yeah, different type looks based on the area they live in. If
Mhm.
everybody looked the same, then we would have some kind of genetic thing going on there. We should
Right.
probably be all having taken care of.
Now, when you did come out with this, um, how was it received for the most part?
Well, the first the first person that I was able actually to talk to about it, one of the first podcasts I was ever on, is he was known as the animal guy. And I
Mhm.
figured I had been like looking at some of these forums and stuff and just watching, not saying anything, just watching. And who can I tell? Who can I talk to? Because
Mhm.
I felt that I had some very pertinent information, which quite obviously I do,
Right.
that
Yeah.
everybody needs to know about. And he was just totally taken aback by it. Like it was like, for him, it was like a big wow moment for
Mhm.
him. I spoke with people like Carrie Arnold. I listened to Carrie Arnold's account by Carrie Arnold. They used to send people to my friend, and they would have me call them, or they would have them call me, because you know uh, it just stands to reason that people would rather talk to somebody that they know, because that's what I was going through, has had an encounter like this, than talk to somebody who has never had an encounter like this,
Mhm.
because I'm going to listen, and I'm sure they're going to listen also. So um, some people immediately jumped on it, and I'm not so sure that. I mean, I know I was hyperventilating the first time I still have a hard time.
Right.
Sometimes breathing through it and reliving it. They were doing the same thing,
Yeah.
listening to it.
Yeah.
So it was kind of relaxed me a little bit, but it was like I would almost come in and out of like reliving it. So it would, like, having a good interviewer like you kind of bring me back to this right here, so I don't get totally immersed in that moment in time, because
Mhm.
that's where I go back to. I never wanted to forget what had happened. As a matter of fact, when I went home that day, I started doing like encounters of the third kind. I just immediately got paper and pencil, and I could draw a little bit. I
Mhm.
immediately wanted to start trying to draw this thing,
Yeah.
its facial. I did not want it to forget a single moment of it, because I was
Mhm.
hoping that someday I'd be able to talk about it. And I started crumpling them up and throwing them in a basket. And I said, wait a minute, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
you know, so
Yeah.
I stopped doing that. I wish I would have kept some of them, but you move so many times in your life or whatever,
Yeah.
that's next to impossible.
Yeah.
to do something like that.
But the important thing is you have the experience, and you keep telling the story, and it's amazing that it's an
Yeah.
amazing story, and people really need to hear this for certain. Um, what do you? I mean, you encounter people with their stories, and maybe they're coming out for the first time. What do you say to somebody who has recently experienced something like this? And they're coming to you for advice. What do you tell them about, if it's their encounter or whatever, and advice that you would give them about coming out to the world with this?
Um, I ask them what they're looking for first. If you're
Mhm,
looking for fame or anything like that, you can pack it up. Most of your fame and stuff like that is going to be by people who are faking it.
mhm,
Okay. If you have something that's real, uh, I try to seek out other people that have had close encounters,
mhm,
close, like you maybe want to call them an A plus plus encounter, because
mhm,
those are the people that are going to listen to you. Because the reason why I'm going to listen to you is I'm well, I'm not the only one, but I should say we are beyond hypothesis at this point, which has to be proven 2 times to come up with a theory.
mhm,
We are working on behavioral aspects of
mhm,
these things now, which is really interesting.
mhm,
So I would tell people that when you listen to other people too, go back in your encounter, because sometimes, for instance, what had happened to me was some people originally would say, well, we need some hype. We need some hype, for our show. That's what draws the people in, is hype and everything. And it is. But I didn't know how
mhm,
to do hype. I can't do hype.
mhm,
Maybe because of my training in my life, I can't do that. I can't break down. That's one of the things I can't do. I can't fake cry. I can't break down and cry and do
right.
that. I have known people that are able to do that. But get your story out there and go back in it and think about it, because what I thought was just mundane information, it was like whatever. I felt that it was a need to share every single moment of that,
Mhm,
you know, and share that with people and go back and look at it and say, for instance, is there anything that it did that you think was not that significant that you're leaving out? Bring bring that forward to me and tell me about that moment. It might be something so insignificant to you, like maybe it just went like that to you,
mhm,
or maybe it just went like that to you. Just a
mhm,
slight nod.
mhm,
These are things that we have to know, because what we're doing and what I'm doing is trying to create a movement now. It's been 7 years, and we've gotten this far. We're beyond footprints. I'm trying to create the movement of the intelligence value of it, because we don't need to do what science wants here. Because
right.
if we do that, that would become a tragedy.
Mhm,
We need to band together and show how intelligent they are. And believe me, they are very intelligent.
right.
That's why you can't find them sometimes.
I mean, judging by the interaction that they had with you and the way they're communicating with you, yeah, they're pretty darn intelligent and know
Yeah,
what they're doing. Um, Talk a little bit about New England Encounters,
sure.
the organization that you have
Mhm.
on the screen there.
Sure, sure. We originally put that up, and that's on Etsy. But please understand, when you go on there, not all of that stuff is mine. They put
Hmm.
a lot of their stuff on there. The only things that you should be interested in is the actual drawings that are on the shirts, and it's actually the Bigfoot or the forest person that I encountered using some of this sign language on me. We want that to be uh, that knowledge to get out, so that people can push that intelligence. When people come over and see that T-shirt, you can explain it to them, and perhaps even if you're out there hiking around and you come in contact with one of them, now you know what to do yourself.
Hmm.
Okay, is to make that hand signal back and forth. We'll be having this at the Cobble Mountain Critter Festival, which is in Massachusetts, at the Moses Scout Reservation, June 7th of this coming year. and it will be within 2 miles of where I had my encounter. So we will have like 150 tent sites already set up, or I should say the people putting it on will have 150 tent sites already set up. I will not have shirts there, but I
Mhm.
will have one shirt for each iteration, each one in a different color of the sign language that was used to teach people how
Wow.
to order it over their phone. So I'm not carrying an inventory. You know, I'm traveling from Ohio all the way up to Massachusetts, and we're doing this for free. All of us are volunteering, everybody there. All of
Nice.
this money goes towards the children's programs for survival, search and rescue, first aid, mountaineering,
Mhm.
kayaking, all the animals that are in living in the watershed area, and what kind of animals are in the watershed area to teach the kids and go into the programs for the schools, all the schools, not one particular school, all of them in the area, and probably maybe 3 or 4 communities easily. So that's
Awesome.
what New England Encounters actually is, and we're hoping that people get involved with that. You know, a lot of people think that people that have things like this that we make big money on it.
Mhm.
Well, let me tell you, at a $25 T-shirt, I'm making $6 on it. So I'm hoping to be able to get 3 gallons of gas to
Yeah.
drive 17 hours.
Yeah.
You know, that's my plan. I'm just hoping that people want to contribute to a wonderful program for these kids and everything that
Mhm.
are up there. You know, and I'm looking forward to it. And I think that this is probably a calling for me, so that
That's
uh,
awesome.
I can give more information, and it's for the kids. It's a spiritual value on this here when you get out there in the woods.
That's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome. And like you said, you're going to be real close to where you had your encounter way back when in
Mhm.
the 80s. Have you
Yeah.
been back there since?
No, I moved away a long time ago. We've
Hmm.
lived in, because of the jobs that we've had, we lived in many different states. Now I live in Ohio, and it's really nice. I have the mountains and everything else. I went out hiking with Paul Frazier. He runs a group here in Ohio too,
Hmm.
and he got me to go out there in the woods, which I did do.
Yeah.
So now I'm, knowing a lot more than I know now. I want to be really prepared because I know what to do.
Hmm.
I know the sign, some of the sign language. Some people are going to say, "Well, I know Bigfoot sign language." Yeah, tell me how you know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it'd be really interesting to hear and to know what you're going through when you go back to the site when you were there. I mean,
Yeah.
that would be I to me that's more interesting than having your
Yeah.
encounter. I mean, and that was a hell of
Yeah.
an encounter.
Thank you. Yeah, it's going to be a very spiritual thing for me to go back there. That's why I want to go back there. I've always felt drawn to that area. I've always felt a calling, like calling me back
Hmm.
to that one area right there. The Massachusetts Hilltown Hikers Association, part of their trail, well, they use the trail goes up around through there. Nobody likes that. Was very steep in history to begin with. Before
Right.
anybody else, people were afraid to go in there, and still to this day, people are a little bit terrified to go in there. There's been a lot of encounters in the areas, and it's a very kind of mountainous areas with a lot of ravines or drop offs and things like that. But they don't like going up there. They've had many of the people in that group, in that association, get lost up there,
Hmm.
even though they have the trails marked, because they said something keeps tearing down their markers. Well, yeah,
Wonder
well,
what.
could be an old angry farmer, you know, who knows? But I want to go back there to the exact spot that
Hmm.
I had my encounter, and I want to sit down there.
I, record that. I mean, that would be a pretty interesting, or have somebody record that. I mean, I think that would be a pretty interesting view into your psyche about what you see now, and what kind of even taking you back to when it actually happened.
Yeah,
I
I'm
think that
sure
would
that
be pretty
I'm sure
interesting.
the area has changed quite a bit in all these years where it was
Yeah,
one saplings is either there are no trees there
yeah.
or they're big thick trees there now. I'm sure the brook is still there. One of the things that I do that I enjoy is music, and one of the
Mhm.
things that I took up, one of the instruments is the Native American flute, and I have that concert tune to 432 megahertz, I believe it is, in the
Oh,
key of E. So I know it's in the healing range,
oh,
and
interesting.
yeah, in the key of E, I play what they call long tone. So if anybody, even if you don't know what I'm talking about, if you look it up, you'll hear what long tone sounds like.
Mhm.
And rather than pick up the different call them nations of Native Americans on their flute playing style, because it's very hard to get any of that music. Is you learn to play long tone, and then what they call play the trees.
Yeah, yeah,
So that I done. I find it very relaxing.
awesome. And since this encounter, you have not had any more encounters, correct?
Well, I'm still a skeptical kind of an individual. And
Mhm.
unless something steps out in front of me, I'm going to say maybe it could be this or it could be that. We've had, my wife and I have had instances where we can't explain what had happened, and we'll just leave it right there because
Interesting.
we did not see exactly what it was, but there is no way that these things um, naturally happen. So we'll leave it right there. Nothing that I seen face to face.
Interesting. Interesting. Cliffhanger for you guys. That's an
Yeah,
interesting way you said that. Ernie, I appreciate you coming on here today, and chatting with us and sharing your encounter again. I think this is one of the most fascinating Bigfoot encounters that I've ever heard.
I
Um,
appreciate it.
where can people find you?
They can't. I'm
At a
sorry.
meat market in Cincinnati or near
Yeah.
Cincinnati.
Uh, it's extremely hard for me to get around to a lot of people. Just
Mhm.
to be quite honest with everybody, there's a lot of very extremely serious researchers that won't even share some of the research they're doing, and they're using some of these things that I've recommended, and they're getting these amazing results. Like I said, we're working on behavior now. Is you forget your structures,
Mhm.
okay? I won't get into everything that we're working on, but that being said, is you'll see me. I'm in like around 80 different groups. So you'll see my name probably welcoming you, like your
Oh yeah,
group. You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
I'll welcome you into the group, so you can feel free at any time through that group.
Mhm.
Ask the groups. That's what the groups are there for. Ask them the question, and if I spot it, I'll put an answer in there. If I see that somebody's going to be abrasive or anything like that, it's well,
Mhm.
that's you got the answer. That's it right there. And you should count your blessings that I'm not the moderator in that group, because if I was, and
Yeah,
some people will do that. They'll say, "Well, who do you think you are? You are. I'm just giving you my opinion, and I'm the moderator."
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
and that's
And
pretty much it. So that's how you can find me in other people's groups, or go to Etsy and leave me a little
there you go.
a note on there. You know, on
And
anything.
and I'll have you see his the Etsy website under his name there, and I'll have that in the show notes with the link to that website and everything. So if you want to grab a t-shirt, Bigfoot sign language t-shirt, um, more than welcome to. Um, Awesome. And of course, Ernie's going to be, he not going to be, but he is part of the Paranormal Among Us Facebook group page. So head on over there. I'll have that link in the show notes as well. If you have a question for Ernie, feel free to ask it in there. And if I see it, I'll tag him in it, and hopefully
Yeah,
he'll see it and get an answer for you. So.
yeah. I
Ernie, my
give my
friend,
opinion.
I appreciate you coming on here. It's always a pleasure talking to you and hearing that story. And it's just, I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
I thank you also.
All right.
We're lucky to get together today. We almost missed each other.
Exactly.
I just happened to be on there in the PM, and I seen you, you tagged it or whatever there, and I said, "Holy cow. I said, I knew there was something I had to do today. I said, and that's it. I said, quick, I still have my slippers on. Okay. So I said, man, I got to get ready really quick here, and thank goodness that my wife actually, she helps me out with computers, because computers, electronic equipment, don't put Ernie around electronic equipment. It all starts going fuddy on me.
And through StreamYard, it's kind of different the way you set up a recording as it is to set up a live stream. And, that's why I kind of waited until today to send you the link, because I wasn't sure how to set it up, like last week or whatever, when we made the plans. And then I sent it. I'm looking at it like, oh, it was noon your time, and that was at 10:30 my time. It's like, oh, we got to move. So, yeah. I'm glad it all worked out, and thanks again for taking some time and chatting with us. So, everybody, hope you have a great rest of your week, rest of your weekend. I'm not sure when this is going to air or anything, so I'm not sure of anything really.
Yeah,
everybody. Thanks again for watching, everybody. I appreciate everybody coming in. And of course, this is a pre-recorded. I would have made some comments about whoever is in chat. So everybody take care. Thanks, you guys. And we'll see you next time. Thanks.
This is the future. Evolution. This is the future.